Okay. So, right now I've already washed these and gave them some polish, and that's gotten the excess off. There's just enough in there that I want. I didn't put any splash of colors on these because I don't really care that much about them. Now, if we end up falling in love with this game, this is from the Skyrim game, um, which I've heard good things about. I've heard some bad things. I think it's probably mostly a solo type game, and I haven't been able to get into those yet. But maybe one day. I know there are some people in my family who love this video game, so who knows? Maybe we'll get into it. But if at any rate, I just didn't feel like more than a wash was needed. I think that looks fine. If I'm playing the game and saw these all on the table, I'd be happy with it. The only thing I want to do is put a black ring around the base because I think that's sexy. But before I do that, I'm going to add a little, since I don't prime anymore, so I'm trying not to prime, since I'm trying to figure out a way to do this without that step. What I do like to do is I like the base ring to look clean, so anytime you have a flat surface and it's raw plastic, even the high flow acrylic that I used with the extra pigment doesn't always cover it really well. So when it's a big flat piece, I will put this layer of gesso on, and I'm still experimenting with the gesso, what thickness of gesso I want to use for this. I will say that sometimes there's a texture. I mean, the thicker stuff leaves like a texture, and sometimes I like that. I've always liked texture in paintings, to see people have the nice sweeping, like huge brush strokes, and they just slap on the oil, and it's nice big globs of it. I always liked that, so I've always really liked texture. So I don't know, maybe I'll experiment with the heavier gesso and see if there's certain circumstances where it's just an easy way to add something interesting to a model, a little interesting texture. I don't know. So we'll just let that dry. I've only got one more to do. And then I'll take some of these dry ones and just put on some, I don't use anything fancy, just a cheap acrylic for the bases, just this basic crap. That's what I use now anyway. Maybe one day I'll decide to use the fancier paints, but I don't think anyone's really gonna care at the end of the day when we're playing games. Is that model paint, or did you just slap some crappy black acrylic paint from Joann's or Michael's, or name your art supply store here? I don't think anyone's going to say that. And if they do, like I said, you can always invite them to paint your hundreds of raw plastic minis. Some of you are like, hundreds? Haha, I wish. More like thousands. Yep, I know, it adds up quick. You do a Kickstarter a year or something like that, you fall in love with these Kickstarters. You do one CMON all in, and you're like, oh. I saw some work somebody did today on Facebook. Yes, I'm Gen X, so I use Facebook primarily for my social media. I'm trying to learn some other ones. I know I need to figure out the old TikTok and the gram full of instas. But for right now, I'm doing that, and like to figure out how to edit these videos and make a nice you know nice little well-produced how-to videos for these, so it's not so amateurish and hard to watch for the one person in the history of humanity who is actually watching these first videos. Thank you. Thank you. I will get there. I promise. Alright, so when I do this, I just pop this open, squeeze a little bit out there, grab a little bit, grab a brush like about that thick. Like it says, so we've already washed these. Already washed. Base is washed. They were just regular old gray. Couldn't see any of the details, but now the details pop, even from far away, even with my bad eyes. I can actually see who's who and what they're doing and all the fun little things on their outfits. But this is already dried. I painted this yesterday. I just wanted to keep a couple unpainted so we could just see how easy it was. And I'm going to just take this, and if I get a little bit up on the base, it's not the end of the world. Nobody will even know, and it could just be, hey, maybe that's chipped right there. Maybe that's got, who cares? If you're wanting to start painting, you just gotta start painting. And I think what I'd like to do is now that I've got a system down that kind of will grow with you, which is important, that this system is able to grow with the people who use it. I'd at least like to get like a little like starter kit list together, and maybe throw some links up for people, things that I've found that work. That, alright, see, doesn't that look nicer? I think that looks way nicer. And I do like to make sure all the white's covered, but other than that, I don't care if I get a little black paint up around the edges. It doesn't matter. Just get a little paint, and we're just gonna slop it on. Not as talkative today. I didn't get much sleep last night. It'd be a good idea when I do these just to kind of plan out what I'm going to say and not just be like, hey, you know what? I'm going to turn the camera on and do a little painting and run my mouth. Just to have like a subject or something. One of the things for the total hobby system that I'm working on is coming up with some well-defined terms for the board gaming hobby, because what I think happened is this hobby was so stagnant and stale for so many years, and then it just blew up the last 10-15 years, and I think we're having a difficult time. When I say we, I mean people who are in the hobby, people who like to play the games and buy the games. I think that it went it blew up so fast, it grew so fast, it matured so quickly that we just didn't have enough time to get the jargon right, to figure out the terminology. I just feel like so much of our terminology is bad. It's just not it's not it's not the way, it's not the right words. I don't know, I've used thematic versus immersive before. And I think that's really important to know the difference, and to know the difference between a lowercase abstract and an uppercase abstract. We have got this debate going in abstract games. It's been so long. People are like, "Well, this game is abstract." I'm like, "No, it isn't. It's got a theme. Like, it's got a lot of theme. Now, does the gameplay, does the rule set, does the user experience, do the mechanics, do the mechanisms, does everything work together to make you feel like you're doing that thing that you're proxying? Like, does it immerse you? Is it immersive? Then if it's not, then it's not. But that doesn't make it unthematic. It's got a theme. And I think the reason it gets so confusing is, A, we conflate theme with immersion. But also because, like, some games are a capital A abstract. Like, they're just shapes and colors and numbers, and the designer, developer, publisher, everybody knows it. Everybody knows that, and that's what they are. And they don't try to sell it. They don't put any theme on it whatsoever. And that is a capital A abstract. It is meant to have no theme, to just be an abstract puzzle that you're trying to work out better than whomever you're playing is working it out. But then there are games that they've got themes, but yeah, the theme was just slapped on, right? It doesn't really align with anything, so people will call those abstracts, but technically they're not abstracts. They're thematic. They're just unimmersive. And you'd be like, "Oh, you're just splitting hairs." Like, yeah, but I think it's important, because the reason it's important is because once you add a theme, how immersive a game is nearly completely subjective. One person, that's why you'll hear people say, "Oh, that game was thematic." Like, "Wow, that game's abstract." Well, why is everybody so different? Because the amount of immersion one feels is completely up to that person. It is 100% subjective. Now, I will say, at the end of the day, like, there are games that just do it better, where the average or the mean player will say, "Oh, this is immersive and this is completely unimmersive, abstract." But if it has a theme at all, then it is a lowercase abstract or unimmersive. And then if we separate those two words, thematic and immersive, and we separate the capital A abstract from the lowercase a abstract and call it unimmersive, then I think people will be able to have a much better idea about the difference between a game that has a theme and a game that doesn't. And anytime we can easier describe something and communicate it, I think it's always a good thing. All right. Well, that was it. The bases are done. I think those look way better. All in all, it usually probably takes about a minute, 2 minutes to do the bases, but it's worth it to me. All right, that's it. These are done. I'm not going to put color on them, at least not yet. But that's what's nice about this is as it grows. If we love this game, I can take these and I can prime them with the gesso wherever I want and add color, or just go with the straight high flow acrylic and be careful. And as I get, like I said, as I get better, you get better tools and you get better techniques, and I might not even need to use any of the gesso, but for right now, this is fine. So, peace.